Welcome in. This is SmashBoxxTV's podcast 467, and this is the third and final attempt. If this doesn't work, it's not meant to be. In fact, I'm going to do what I can to even work on a little bit of actual light. I'm not even going to use that microphone. That microphone doesn't even work in this setup. Let me see if I don't know why the rest of this isn't working. Yeah, this is an instant classic. Yeah, that is one way to look at it. I don't know why my computer just shut down. There is a little less than nothing that is going right here. And I thought I actually saw while I was doing this that there was an opportunity to invite a guest. And if there's still a way for me to do that, to bring in Gannon, I will, even though I'm literally using my phone. I am giving up on all of the computers, the other things that I had happening. I'm giving up on all of those to actually work or do what I meant for them to do tonight. So let me see if there's anything I can do to possibly actually invite Gannon to this. I don't think that there's going to be. What a mess. I know you guys wouldn't expect much else. So, here we are. It's podcast 467. This is going to be a short one. And I apologize to all of you. I'm going to just get right into it. Valerie Mandujano, your champion, of course, this weekend. What I've been talking about is how epic that it was that she has just come back in the last few months. D-Glo, Dynamic Disc Open, was her first event back, and she had finished 10th, somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm gonna see if I can bring up the information. Sorry. Yeah, episode 467.6. Good call. At the Dynamic Disc Open, she finished 18th, and that was in the cash. Impressive. She had, I feel like it was the first round was a decent round, and then she, eventually fell off the pace a little bit from there, but impressive nonetheless for her to be back. Then she goes on to take 6th at the Des Moines Challenge. Then she takes 9th at the Preserve. She goes back to Texas to win a Live Oak event, an A tier there. The following weekend, Mid-America, she takes 5th. Last weekend at Ledgestone, she struggled mightily and didn't cash. So she played in 6 events, cashed in the first 5 coming back, didn't cash at the pretty competitive Ledgestone event. And she mentioned in her Champions interview that she was second guessing the idea of being out and not wanting to play, and talking to her mom about being on the road and playing and battling through all of these different thoughts and feelings. And when it was all said and done, obviously it was a good idea that she ultimately still went on and played, and would come out victorious this weekend. Very consistent for her throughout the weekend. And as I pull up UDisc, I wanted to take a look at what we saw. And I remember talking to her after round number 2, and I had said, hey, if I offered to you that you were going to shoot, I think, 4 strokes worse in round number 2. Round 1, she shot a 5 under. In round 2, she shot a 1 under. So she shot 4 strokes worse, but actually still found herself in the lead by a couple of strokes, which is incredible. So then she goes on to round number 3. When I do the little clicky click, when we go take a look at what she did in round 3, she then shot a 3 under. So relatively consistent in shooting the 5, the 1, and the 3, all kind of in that general neighborhood. They had a really strong finish. Really the only mistake that she made was on hole number 17. And yeah, I'm just so impressed by what we saw from her today, or I'm sorry, this weekend. And how unbelievably timely, in the fact that on Monday, just yesterday, a video, the On Tour series drops, and then there's an entire piece on her released on the Disc Golf Networks, part of the On Tour series. Honestly, I didn't get a chance to even watch it all yet. I've seen the trailer, and I'm super excited to go and consume it. I have not previewed it. I haven't had any kind of special insight to it whatsoever, and quite frankly, I haven't had the time, even if I did. But pretty cool to win an event, and then the very next day, a video comes out that talks about an injury and then coming back from said injury. It's unbelievable, as Tim jokes and says the DGPT is scripted. It almost feels as if it would be, right, at that point. And I'm sorry, I'm going to take a brief moment to message Gannon Buhr, who's been very patient and waiting. I told him this was a mess, and don't know if I'm sorry, I'm sending him a message. All right. So, congratulations, needless to say, congratulations to Valerie Mandujano. What an incredible performance. I feel like we've been talking about both Valerie and Alexis more so in the last few weeks as well. We saw Alexis break out, have a good weekend or a good start to her weekend at Ledgestone. She slowed down a little bit, but then did have a really good start to her weekend. So very impressive. And then as I we'll go ahead and just read down the list real quick. Owen Scoggins, miss consistency. It feels like we see her on or near the podium just about every single weekend. It feels like, and it feels like she's always. I don't want to even just say battling back, but she's just always there in that conversation. We haven't seen her, take down a big Elite Series event. Something like this weekend, the D-Glo, not necessarily in her favor in terms of the raw distance and power that's needed at a place like that. But we continue to say that, and then she continues to finish like second and third, right? So she's not getting over the hump to get the win, but the fact that she's right there knocking on the door, I think is awesome to see for sure. So Owen Scoggins in second, Holland Hanley ultimately finishes in solo third. And then a tie for fourth, Missy Gannon, of course, and Madison Walker. A couple of cool stories there in the fact that Missy obviously was very competitive for back-to-back weekends, coming off of a big Ledgestone win, and her putting looked so solid yet again. You wouldn't have been surprised if Missy would have gone on to take it down throughout the weekend. So very solid performance there. And then maybe one of the I hate to call it a breakout story of the weekend, but certainly one of the storylines of the weekend is seeing what Madison Walker did. First round, I think she shot the hot round at 6 under, was your outright leader. The first time she shot the hot round since the 2021 U.S. Women's. She's obviously been busy touring and golfing and being on the road doing Jomez commentary as part of the Two Hot Geese. As busy gets, and so it was great to see her kind of pop off, so to speak, and have such a solid performance. She had a really tough time out there during the second round, so that was tough to watch. Just didn't get any breaks, so to speak, but also just seemed as if she was a bit off. And we were walking down the fairway of hole number 1. And she's like, I don't believe this. I don't believe this. I'm like, what? She's like, I'm really nervous. Like, kind of really nervous. And she's like, oh, you got this. You're fine. And, I guess you take for granted. You think of her as someone who's on camera or on audio and doing various video, and clearly is, comes across as very approachable and having a really good time. But all eyes are on you when you're leading a tournament, and it's just not a position she's been in quite some time. So when it was all said and done, great to see her step up and have a solid weekend. And she also was coming off of a really frustrating time at Ledgestone. So I think that was kind of an interesting takeaway, that both women, both Valerie and Madison, both had terrible weekends, per their words, had terrible weekends the weekend before at the Ledgestone, and were second guessing golf and their desires and everything else about playing golf, and then all of a sudden they both find themselves performing very well at this particular event. Valerie finished in 30th, and Madison finished in 35th. They were 4 strokes apart from one another at that event. I mean, 30th out of 48 for Valerie, and Madison then was what would I say 35th out of 48. So certainly not inspiring performances, needless to say, to go over then to the Idlewild course. And then quickly, also, we have to touch on Cadence Burge, Cadence Burge. First name and second and last name you have to think about for just a moment. And the more you think about them, the more you then probably screw them up. Cadence Burge. We saw her 2 out of 3 rounds. I mean, an opportunity to be on camera. You know, she's been good. Clearly, she's obviously a good player. There's Am World's footage of her. She was at your champion at the NADGT last year. I'm not second guessing any of her skill sets, but there is something to be said about getting those reps in front of a camera, in front of a gallery, no matter how good you are. I mean, like everything I just said about Madison, who has been on tour for 8, 9, 10 years now, the fact that she's nervous in front of a gallery as well. So great to see Cadence. There's no doubt we're going to see more of her. I mean, if she sticks with disc golf, she's clearly proven very quickly that to the world that she has the skills. And she made a post on Instagram. I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but it was something about a bunch of her first this weekend and how good she felt about this weekend when it was all said and done. And I just can't say enough about the growth and the maturity and everything that she's going to continue to go through. I just, again, keep in mind, everyone, she is 16 years old, and there's so much golf and so much life and so much ahead of her, including some of the struggles that maybe a Gannon Buhr or a little bit of a Cole Redalin and some of these other MPO players, and a Kyle Klein, some of these young MPO players that have seen some success already at an amateur or even a professional level, and then still have to close out high school, and just where your mind is when you're thinking about, Cadence, when it was all said and done, I'm gonna guess took over $1,000 if I could quickly get there. I'm guessing took over $1,000 this last weekend, and that's not life-changing money. We all know that. Well, maybe for some it is. It doesn't feel like life-changing money. But the fact that she tied for 6th and took home $1,317. Like, 16-year-olds are working a lot of hours at Subway, like me, or wherever, to earn $1,317. And no, there's expenses, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. But the point is, knowing where professional disc golf can now take you, it's got to be that much tougher to keep your focus, depending on what some of your goals and aspirations are. But knowing that the second highest grossing player in all of disc golf as of a few days ago is Kristen Tatar of this year, of 2023. Let me be very clear. The highest grossing FPO competitor, second highest grossing from tournament earnings player was Kristen Tatar. Now, I think this last weekend probably shook things up a little bit. Maybe not. But she's in the top 2 or 3 regardless, even after this weekend, even though she wasn't here. So clearly that's got to be a little bit exciting for the 16-year-old. So congratulations to her as well. Rounding out our top 10 real quick, Sarah Hokum, who we haven't heard a ton of from this year, but Sarah Hokum came out and birdied 2 out of the last 4 holes to find herself in that tie for 6th, along with Cadence. Luque Lorenzen really struggled during that final round, ultimately, but finished tied for 6th. Hannah Wynn, who we saw perform very well back at the North Cove event, and is trying to keep things rolling. She finished tied for 9th. And Chantel Badinsky, Miss Frisbees, as you would find her on Instagram, hailing out of Canada, also having one of her better finishes as well. So a couple of our international players in Luque and Chantel excuse me, Luque taking 6, Chantel taking tied for 9th. And then also tying for 9th was Cat Merch. So, pretty cool. Congrats to all of them. And then as I scroll down just a little bit more, I'm seeing some of our Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship qualifiers. And I wanted to look down to see who else that we had qualifying this last weekend. And it's not as easy. Oh, there we go. It's a little easier for me to tell now. Cadence qualified. I don't know. Again, come schooling. I don't know if that's something that she's focused on. But she was the qualifier from this weekend. It looks like she got the one spot that was available. All right. I'm sorry. I'm not able to keep up with your comments as easily as normal. I don't know why my lights. Oh, my light's not doing much work back there. It's been a long day. I'll talk about that more in a minute. All right, let's jump over to the MPO side. Again, I made graphics. Everything I did today had Gannon Buhr lined up, so it is frustrating that the system ultimately didn't work to get Gannon in here tonight. I'm going to have to get it figured out because the Disc Golf Guys channel wants to do a ton of podcasts, and I'm going to have to get it figured out at some point. But tonight apparently is not going to be the night. Your champion, Gannon Buhr, no surprises there. You guys knew that. Insane start, 6 for 6, 8 down after 9 holes. I mean, and I wasn't trying to be dismissive in any way by saying he started out just like Cole Redallen did at Ledgestone. Like, you wondered if they're going to falter. You wonder if there's going to be any chance of pressure or them cracking, maybe more so on Cole because he hasn't won as often or at all at that level. And then he started out Ledgestone. What did he get? The first 4, 5, 7 in a row, whatever it was. 7 in a row, 8 in a row, whatever it was. Like, and you just thought, oh, hey, okay, you're not going to be beat today. Because if you birdie every hole and you have the lead, or you birdie damn near every hole, that's just not giving a lot of opportunities. And that's exactly how I felt Gannon set that tone. When you just come out and just start birdieing everything, everyone on the card, no matter what kind of day you're hoping to have, everyone on the card's like, even if I birdie everything and keep up with him, I'm still going to lose to him because he came in with the lead. I mean, I think that's how math works. So very, very impressive to see what Gannon did. Kept it bogey free during that round. And awesome to see. Shoots the 12 under. There was a 14 under that was shot earlier in the day by Micah Groth. He shot a 14 under. Then we heard some other hot scores. Ricky Wysocki ultimately came in with a 13. I think Ben Calloway had a 12 as well, maybe a 13, but I think Ben had a 12. Actually, it wouldn't take much just to make a click here to tell you guys. Yuli ended up having a really good weekend for himself. Big shout out to him. He shot a 13. And Nico LaCastro had a 13 along with Wysocki, who I mentioned a moment ago. Callaway had a 13, not a 12. And then Gannon's 12. Kyle Klein battled back with a 12. Ezra Robinson battled back with a 12. Heimberg had an 11 under. And Matt Bell, Tim Barham, Casey White all had 11s. And then there was a slew of 10s. Zach Arlinghouse, Connor O'Reilly, Luke Humphreys, James Conrad, and Nate Hecker. All with 10s. So pretty impressive as to what we saw there for sure by so many of those players who, those were some great scoring conditions. And then it's like as if they basically got the track fully figured out on that final round. Congratulations to those solid rounds. So Burr takes it down. I should mention Valerie Mandujano won $7,000 for first. And first place for Gannon Buhr, $10,000. Not a bad paycheck. I mean, I'm not going to go all old school on you, but $10,000 for a big win, for a win was huge money. Not too many years ago. Like, it was unheard of. There was USDGC paid out $10,000, and now it's on the regular. And that to me is, it continues to be wild. And you'd think I'd get over it because I've been around and watching disc golf and part of disc golf for almost 30 years, more than 30 years. No, it's still wild to me. $10,000 would be like a medium to slow season for a pro. And now the likes of Gannon are taking 10 grand for first on a weekend. Valerie taking 7 grand. Kelvin Heimberg took second. He took 67.50, so almost that same 7 grand. It's incredible. So moving on, second place, Kelvin Heimberg finished 2 behind when it was all said and done. 2 behind Gannon Buhr. 2 behind him, Isaac Robinson, a previous champion of this event. We mentioned Yuli, who shot the 13. That doubled his score. He was at 13 under, shoots a 13 under to get to 26 on the weekend. That ties him with Kyle Klein, who has won this event in extra holes in the past. So solid finish there for Kyle. LeCastro, as I said, shot a pretty hot score. He jumped up into 25 under, so he takes 6th by himself. I'm guessing that's gonna be one of Nico's larger paydays of the year. That's $2,200, and his biggest. That's a good pull. His biggest paycheck of the year so far, $2,200. Nico LeCastro for the year has won $15,000, but $2,200 coming in just this last weekend, and the weekend before at Ledgestone he took home $1,400. So pretty impressive. And as I mentioned, Nate Hecker, who I did not get a chance to really get to know, probably even as intimately as some of you guys did, depending on what was all done on the coverage. But Nate Hecker had a good weekend, and I believe it was Corey Ellis that was on his bag, or at least Corey Ellis made a post about how impressed he was and how proud he was of Nate Hecker. So you're in good company if Corey Ellis is giving you those kind of props. Tying Nate Hecker was Matty O, and then Kevin Jones, who hasn't been a big contender in a lot of events as of late, and then the fact that we saw him bust out where he did this weekend was pretty cool to see. I'm looking at some of his previous finishes. He struggled mightily at the Preserve. Ledgestone, he did finish in 11th, and then this was a 7th place finish. Finished 28th at the Major over there in Europe. And then the weekend before that, he played in Sula, where he didn't cash. He took 51st. So Kevin Jones, has won $18,000 on the year. Comes in rated 1026 and has a U.S. Tour rank of 13th. But pretty cool. So good to see Kevin Jones. And I know we're talking about a bunch of the top players in the world anyway, so just by the math will work out this way. But when you think about champions of this event, and then seeing some of them perform well, especially in the final round or two, it's a lot of those previous champions. When I talk about Isaac Robinson, Kyle Klein has won this, Kevin Jones has won this, and James Conrad, who had his best round, saved his best round for last. He's won this in the past. So 4 of your champions kind of up there all in the top 14. Then again, it keeps producing a new winner every year. So eventually, when we have 22 different winners, it's going to be all of the top 22 players in the world. And it's just going to be all of them with nobody on repeat. So that's what you had. Congratulations. And thanks. Anyway, let me just thank Gannon. I don't know if you're watching, but thank you for your patience. I'm sorry that this was a big pain and a struggle. I was going to see if there was a button to click on to possibly still get you to join, but at this point, I don't really want to mess it up. I've had 2 failed attempts as it is already tonight. Both times the stream started off fine, and then just out of nowhere, it went to die on me. You guys could talk about it. Daniel on the chat says Gannon is the best player on the planet right now. There's a lot of people that wouldn't disagree with you. I mean, that's a solid argument to be made. He's got 3 Elite Series wins and 2 Silver Series wins. Or Silver event wins. And then I think the stat Mando comparison to him was with Kelvin Heimberg, and it really came down to one word, which was a little bit of consistency. And Kelvin has an average finish of like 3.6, and Gannon's is like 9 or 10 an average finish. but Gannon has, more W's. I don't know. That's for everyone else to debate. I know both of them on any given weekend, and what they can do, and we're going to continue to see what they can do. Um, it's gonna be wild. And then, with the majors rolling around, the USDGC Worlds, sometimes a Macbeth, finds an extra gear to kick it into, but him dealing with his injury. Similarly, on the FPO side, I don't think we're going to see Paige really much this year. If I was doing the math on the injury update from last week and then thinking about how that plays out and how many more weeks that means for, I don't know if we're going to see a Paige, in the remainder of this year, or if we do, if it's for one final event or not, and if that's even worth pushing. I think that'll be one of the biggest questions. Is let's just say she's healthy and fully ready to go a week before Throw Pink, or seemingly fully healthy and ready to go. Is that an event that she pushes for to get back and get one more event in yet this year, or does she ride it out and take no chances on a full recovery? Those are some of the things to think about. I don't know if there's anything else that jumps out on the MPO side. I'm going to scroll down real quick and see if there's anything else. Coling had a good weekend. It seems like Yuli and Coling both found themselves having good weekends. Maybe it's some of that commentator love. I saw early in the weekend that Nate Sexton I felt like struggling, and then as I take a look for him, I find him in a tie for 30th, along with Randon Lotta and Evan Scott. Nope, sorry, Evan got him. So Chandler Kramer, Chris Dickerson, Brad Schick, Grady Shue, Randon Lotta, and Nate Sexton and Evan Smith all tied. So what a tie that was. Holy cow. Down there in 30th place. Okay. Yeah, Nate's first time at Idlewild, as Tim is saying. And real quick, a couple of shout-outs, some major shout-outs. Tim, I saw. Tim, I got to send you the picture, and I'll post it as well. Tim, one of the most devout Smashies and just all-around supporters, most importantly. Tim Quartz, who's on the board. Thank you so much, Tim. It was great seeing you out there this weekend. I think you said you were spotting all 3 days, even though I only saw you one. I don't know what you were doing. But I did see Tim out there. I managed to get a little smashy selfie with him. So good to see Tim. Huge shout out to Logan, who for 5 out of 6 rounds was carrying around my backpack to make things a little bit more tolerable throughout the weekend. The heated, heavy backpack that we were carrying around to do the sideline commentary. And then also for the very final round on the MPO side, because Logan wanted to go swim for disc to return them to players. So he went swimming as the players got through hole 5. And Gerald was on my bag, on the bag, whatever you want to call it. He was carrying around the backpack for the entire final round. So good to see you, Tim. Logan, thank you so much. 5 out of 6 rounds he carried it, and Gerald stepped in on the final round. So I want to make sure I say thank you to all of you guys for seeing you. And then just the countless volunteers and spotters and the insane amount of people that wanted either pictures or autographs or whatever. I say it every single weekend. I'm so blessed and humbled by all of you guys. To be able to see so many of you in person on a weekend like this is absolutely awesome, and I had a lot of fun with it. So thank you, Danielle. Tim says 250 volunteers. That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, and that's what it takes for you guys to have an event of that caliber run as smoothly as it does, weather and everything else in consideration. It doesn't surprise me to see that many people, and just the way that the entire Cincinnati Idlewild area just turns out for the golf year in and year out has been absolutely awesome. Did the Death Hornet attack victim end up okay? Excuse me. Many of you heard some squealing is really the best word, or screeching and blood-curdling scream that took place while our lead card was on the tee of 12. and I was all the way down the fairway on 12, way down on the new fairway of 12. So I didn't hear it as clearly. I was hearing production in my good ear, and then in my right ear I barely hear anything. And multiple people were then talking about it, and what it ended up being the case was the fact that there was a hornet or a set of hornets, I'm not sure, that had apparently found a younger child, and understandably they didn't take too well to being stung. So I don't know any more details. Somebody on the internets did say that it may have been a nephew of Kevin Jones, or nephews possibly of Kevin Jones. Regardless of who it was, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because the fact that it happened is what mattered. And sorry to anyone. Yeah, Yellow Jackets, Hornets. Nonetheless, not fun. I, in a sense, I'm glad I couldn't hear it as clearly as some of the others did, because I hate the idea of thinking about it, especially, I don't like the pain, but thinking about even my 12 and 14-year-old daughters, it really, just no one wants to get stung like that. So, hopefully everybody's okay and everybody's good to go. John says, Terry, great work on the Holy Shot documentary. Well, thank you. I can't speak to it too much other than I've heard that it's out, and it's out for public consumption. It's been a long time since I watched it, and now I kind of have this notion of going and watching it myself. Again, simply because how could you ever get sick of that story, quite honestly? All right. A couple things I want to touch on. It is on DGN, but now it's also released, I think, not exclusively. It's now released fully on a YouTube channel somewhere. I don't know if I'm going to sound silly that I don't know this. I don't know if it's the Disc Golf Pro Tour YouTube. That's where I'm heading right now to look for it. Or if it's on the PDGA's YouTube, or both. I see Mandujano on tour. That is a 20-minute video. 28-minute video. I didn't realize it was that long, so I definitely didn't get a chance to take it all in. Yeah, I'm looking through it, and it looks like it's probably on the PDGA, which I believe is at PDGA Media on YouTube. PDGA Media. I think somebody stole the PDGA. The Holy Shot is out there right now. 12 days ago released. So, should I just stream it? Should we have a watch party? It's an hour and 26 minutes. So that is available completely free now to watch. 66,000. I don't even want to click on it because I don't want to get caught up in reading any of the comments or anything else. Because I can only imagine there might be a lot of great comments. There also might be a lot of really dumb ones. Like, you're not getting my internet voice yet. But stick around. It might show up. So anyway, thank you for any kind words I may have gotten. Lunchbox Studios or Lunchbox Productions had put that together. And I kind of do want to go watch it again, the more that I think about it. All right, let's quickly, I'm just going to quickly pivot into postulating, I don't know if that's quite the right word, about it's the Ledgestone group running the D-Glo this weekend. Nate Heinold and a lot of his crew and a lot of similar people that are involved with Ledgestone are now also hosting, and of course presented by Discraft and all that good stuff, but it's a lot of a similar group, and that's why I may inadvertently refer to that as Ledgestone. Bert Kreischer is going to be there. I know that you guys saw some information about that. I don't know all of the details to it myself. I know I know this might sound funny, but it's as legitimate and fancy as like some of the emails that are going back and forth are talking with his agent or publicist or whatever he might be, his official title. but they're involved even to that degree, to that extent. So yes, Bert obviously is a big fan of disc golf and has made constant posts and references and kind of spreads the word of it for us. And then also there was a little preview clip of sorts that was made that he's doing in terms of teaming up with D-Glo and everyone over there. And I don't know what I can or can't tell you because I honestly I don't know what's public or not, and I'm not trying to tease you guys. But I feel like there was a couple special initiatives or things that were taking place in terms of things he's going to be involved with. And it's just what, to me, my takeaway, the little bit I read of it within there, knowing I'm not going to physically be there, is it's interesting to have a full-blown celebrity. And you may like or not Bert's comedy or humor or his style, whatever. But he's a legitimate celebrity. And then to know there's still agreements, obligations. There's still boundaries that have to be adhered to. And I think that's kind of what was getting laid out in some of the messaging that was going back and forth as to exactly what he'd be available for, when he would be where, and what that exactly means. And I was going to look for you guys to see if anything of it was public, but I don't know where that email has gone. Bert Kreischer on the broadcast. Things like ceremonial first throws have been done in the past. We've seen that in a few things. There's a lot of different things. He may be involved directly or indirectly in the broadcast in terms of how cool would it be if he was, possibly, on communications with us, if he became some form of sideline reporter for a few holes. I don't know where it's all. I don't know that it's all been settled. But I know there are contracts, agreements, stipulations, boundaries, all of those types of things that have gotten us to that point. So Bert Kreischer, that's Kreischer. If you're not familiar with him, again, that's fine. Not everyone's a comedian or is into comedy, I should say. He does popular podcasts. He's on a number of different things. And then he has had a pretty successful very large tour that he's been on, and I think he's planning on touring again next year. If you have no idea who I'm talking about, the way that I quickly learned of him was he was the guy that always got on stage, and I felt like almost instantly just took off his shirt while he did his comedy routine. And I'm not going to say he's built like me, but not far off. I'm sure he's more ripped than I am, but so anyway, he's there. Yeah, have a good time with it. I don't know how to pronounce his buddy Tom's last name, who's a fellow comedian who does the podcast with him. Segura. Yeah, there it is. It was spelled incorrectly. Tom Segura is another guy that he also does the Two Bears, One Cave podcast with. Segura, yeah. So you may or may not be familiar with him, again, depending on where you are on the comedy scene. That's fine. There's plenty of comedians that I may either know or recognize by either their jokes and or by their face, but not necessarily remember their name. And I think that's easy to do because sometimes you can go to a comedy show and you might see anywhere from 2 to 9 comics in a night. And so it can be difficult, I feel like, to remember their names more so. I don't know why that is. So, all right, that was a random tangent, but look for that. Somebody asked, I think, something about where will I be this weekend. I am tomorrow in, I don't know, 14 or 18 hours, 16 hours. I am flying to Bend. So I will, as usual, take a leg to Denver from Milwaukee, from then Denver into Bend. Redmond, technically. I always say Bend. It's Redmond, which is about 30 minutes away from Bend, but it's the only real airport. So I'll fly into Redmond, and then we'll be ready to go bright and early. 4 rounds for this playoff event, which means very early mornings for me. So if you know me, you know that I'm typically much more of a night person, and this this final stretch of the season is going to be a challenge for me, and I'll have to adapt, and I always do, so I'm not complaining. But every time there's an event on the East Coast, and just to set up the time frame, if there's an event on the East Coast and we're going live at roughly 9:15 Eastern, that means that 6:15 Pacific time that we're live and talking, which means they want us in our seats with headsets on, ready to talk about the day at 5:15, which means even with a 5-minute drive, that means I'm up at about 4:30. 4:30 to leave by 5 to be like fully ready in a chair at 5:15 to then go live at 6:15. Now, yes, I get done earlier in the day. You're right. That doesn't excite me. Getting done early does nothing for me on a personal level because I have a hard time shutting down at night. That's where the challenge comes in. So, if we're thinking ahead a little bit, 4 days of D-Glo, and this isn't a complaint, but 4 days of D-Glo, 4 days of MVP, 4 days of the U.S. Women's Championship, and 4 days of the Tour Championship. There's 16 days where that will be my schedule. And then the other event among all of those that I didn't mention include the USDGC, which I'll physically be at, so I can get up a little later. And then I'll also be at the Worlds. Same thing, I'll be able to get up later. And so that's just one of the minor challenges to being in Bend. However, I am excited to be in the booth. I believe at least this weekend, the schedule has myself, along with Valerie, who just had their baby boy a few weeks ago. Congratulations yet again to them. But Valerie and then Zoe, so they will both be in the booth with, they'll be our color commentators. I will be the host. I know, suck it up, Dan says. And then the afternoons, at least for this weekend, I believe it's going to be a Nate sandwich. Nate Doss, Nate Sexton, and myself. I believe that's how it's going to go down this weekend. And let me just say it for the sake of saying it. I'm not complaining about my times. I wouldn't say I'm not a morning person. I'm just so much more a night person. Like, I don't feel like I'm cranky or terrible or miserable or inoperable at those times in the morning. You are 100 times more likely to find me still awake at 6 a.m. than ever getting up at 6 a.m. or find me more awake at 5 a.m. from the night before than ever setting an alarm and being up at 6. So when you're talking about a 4:15, 4:30 start, things get a little rougher. All right. I'm going to kind of mix together an after show with the regular show because this is all one jacked up podcast as it already is. So with that, I want to quickly get a plug in. I'm not paid by them, but I am at home, so I did want to partake. This weekend, I found myself with one of these. Well, okay, a 4-pack. This is a Founders, which many of you know from Michigan, Grand Rapids. Shout out to Kyle Klein, who isn't old enough to drink. This is a Founders KBS, but a chocolate cherry imperial stout aged in bourbon barrels. Yes, please. Delicious. That is absolutely my speed and my style. And a couple others that have yet to make it to the fridge for when they're ready. If you ever get a chance, you're not going to be able to see that real. Central Waters. This is anniversary edition. 25th anniversary. Malt beverage aged in oak bourbon barrels, brewed in Amherst, Wisconsin. Yes, please. And they support disc golf. They have discs. Very, very, very key component to the central Wisconsin disc golf scene as well. Okay. Yes, you know what? You guys were just talking about Brixton, or somebody just asked about Brixton boxes. I have a whole Brixton box right here. I have yet to open the box, which then contains boxes. I don't know if I want to do that. I don't want to open the actual disc yet. That's going to be a whole, or I'm sorry, the actual boxes of them. That's going to be an entire video that I'm going to put together. So just know that I did finally get around to, somehow it slipped my mind, and I got around to ordering some Brixton boxes. I see all the excitement. It's unbelievable what's been going on with all the cards running around and all the one of ones and the just all the different differentiations, the different ones that are available. Absolutely awesome. So I'm excited to open mine, but it's with my schedule, we're gonna have to see exactly when that's gonna happen. But I think I can get maybe even a couple different camera angles, and I'm gonna do a really good job with trying to open those and partake in all of that madness. So thank you for the people that have tagged me or have showed their overall excitement. Johnny and I and so many in the media all very excited to have any part in being part of those releases for this year. All right, I can start officially in whatever capacity you'd like. I could try and run through any questions that you guys might have. This is kind of unofficially the regular show after show combo. So if there's stuff that you guys would like to talk about, put it in the chat. It scrolls a little quicker. Maybe I can pull it up here. It scrolls a little bit quicker than it typically does because I am all the work I did, so much work, so much preparation to use all the fancy right equipment, and now here I am plugged into my phone and just going straight phone tonight. So that's certainly frustrating. Watch out, Kyle Klein. Okay. Terry, you got an ace on YouTube from that guy who steals everyone else's aces and releases them. Oh, yeah, great. That's nice of them. His 100 ace video has you in it. Oh. Okay, so he steals... Okay, so the ace that I had... Go figure. Again, I know everyone can say it's easy, it's no big deal, it's exposure. That's what they would say. There's some... In some magic world, there's a place for, highlights and compilations and things of that nature. I get all of that. But it also, I've said it countless times, it feels really dirty knowing how much work goes into a video and video production to then have someone just go out and take a video you've made and then steal it. Especially when you think about the hundreds of hours in terms of filming, editing, and producing a video, and the hundreds of hours you put into it to maybe capture one ace every few months or maybe one ace a year, whatever the number is, and then another channel just grabs it. Like, again, I get it, but when you make that, you feel different about it. And I shouldn't allegedly feel any different about it, but I do. It doesn't rub me right. Where's the studio in Bend? It's at Nate and Val's house. I'm not doxing them, but it's at their house. It's been at it was at Bevel for the longest time in one of their additional office rooms, and then it's worked out better that it's been literally in their house, which is where it's located. What's your opinion of the round of, okay, that's a good question. What's your opinion on the end of round 2 for MPO? Do you think stereo audio will catch on, or is it just a fad? That was wild. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It was one of the more wild things I've ever seen. And I had called it on hole 9. I said, we're not going to finish this round. It's just a matter of when does it get called. And the fact that the way I understand it, because I was down near the green of 16, nearly 1,000 feet from the tee. I knew that the chase card had just come off hole 18 because I was on U-Disc, and I knew that they were done. And the chase card, or I'm sorry, the lead card was just getting to 16's tee. And the horn had blown. And then it sounds as if the conversation that took place near the tee, 1,000 feet away from me, uphill, was that the players basically said, hey, we're, for lack of a better term, we want to appeal or petition the idea that it's way less fair for us to get up in the morning to completely jack up their day, to get up in the morning to come play 2 holes, to jack up our entire day and everything else that goes along with it. We would rather play in the dark and suffer those consequences of not being able to see as well, whatever. That's the way that it was basically conveyed to me. And they wanted to play, and I don't think that can be stressed enough. And somebody, GPO Studios, is on here saying, I was at the tee. The group wanted to play. Christine made the phone call and begrudgingly allowed them. And I can't say that enough. And I want that narrative to be out there. The players 100% wanted that. It was the PDGA and or the Pro Tour that said, hey, it's time to call it. And it was the players that wanted to push forward, saying they accept all consequences of playing in the dark. And it's funny because somebody said later, like, would that have ever been petitioned or talked about or been a discussion 10 years ago or 20 years ago? Maybe some of your old school players, would they have been like, yep, that's just what we're going to do? And was there any bit of youthfulness that kind of had, I don't want to call it young and dumb, but as a cliche or as just a phrase, was there any of that youthful mentality of like, no, let's just fight through this? And I was shocked. I was honestly shocked. But that's what I want to make sure to continue to convey and let the world know, is that they had said, excuse me, they had said that, we're good with calling it, we'll come back out. And it was the players themselves. Now, we could have a big discussion about, should they have forced them? I think that's the number one discussion that needs to be had. Should the officials have forced them and said, no, we do or don't care what you want, we need to call it? You look at it, let's just use one comparison. You may say the horn blows in terms of a rain or lightning delay, and the players say, oh, no, we want to play. We're going to accept, we're going to accept our fate, and we take full responsibility. If we get hit by lightning, we get hit by lightning. Well, that's similar but different for a number of reasons. But one of the biggest reasons to me was the fact that it was a different type of safety concern, if any. There was a different type of concern, and secondly, they were the last foursome on the entire course. So when you compare that to having 40 or 50 or 100 people on a course, or whatever the number is, and you compare that to them being the last foursome and them feeling like it was more of a disadvantage to come back out the next morning than to suffer the consequences of playing in the dark, I don't know. Here's what I will say, and this is nothing more than pure speculation. I think there will be a stricter, more defined policy as a result of this, whatever it is. And maybe they say, stricter is not the right word. There will be a more specific policy. And maybe they say if the group agrees to it, they can move forward, or however it gets worded, I don't know. But I think there will be a more clear and concise policy for situations. Now, this may never happen again the rest of our lives. I mean, truth be told, we were at a throw down the mountain, or if it was the one time we did in October, the monster on the mountain. But we were at the Paul Macbeth Dillon-Cease property, the Grand Canyon course. And I remember one of the final nights, due to rain delays and everything else, that also finished in the dark. And at the time, headlights and other things were considered, and it was pitch black. I mean, I would say even darker than what we saw at Idlewild. That was years ago. And it wasn't on the Pro Tour, and it was very different. So it's obviously rare that any of this happens. And then it does come down to who gets to make that call, who makes the final decision, who can be overruled, who can't. Those are all things that I think need to be part of that conversation. It was a wild experience. I had no problem when everybody said, have you ever seen anything like this? Have you ever seen the glow disc? And I had to remind them, and it's not in here. Damn it. That would have been the move. I'm the 2008 Glow World Champion. I'm just saying. 2008 Glow World Champion. I'm not scared to play in the dark. It was the World Championships in 2008 that took place in the Kalamazoo, Michigan area. I think it was a Friday night, which shows how much of a life I have. But they hosted Glow Worlds, a Glow Worlds, which wasn't even sanctioned technically. That was before things like, I think even X tiers or D tiers existed or whatever. But that was also obviously intentional in the way that it was set up and so on and so forth. And I shot an incredible round. I forgot what it was, but it was an incredible round. I think I won by 4 or 5 in the open division on my favorite course, as WT4's Wade will attest, playing at Colebrook Park, which is all very short, very technical, all 200-foot turnovers with a million trees. So anyway, I didn't want to hear it when it came to people talking about playing in the dark. But yeah, it was wild. I don't know what the world really thought of it. I guess I didn't go to the Reddits or the Facebooks and look for too much feedback, but I'm sure it was all over the board. And for the most part, I would think it landed on the side of they were the only 4 on the course, and if they wanted to push forward, more power to them. I would assume that's where most of the public, what's the word I'm looking for? Public opinion probably landed. But it does bring up some other questions. And then I think it brings up another question of, they got to 16 specifically, like 13 and 14, 12 a little, 13 and 14 somewhat wooded, 13, 14, 15 somewhat wooded. Then you get to 16, looked nothing like 13's green. Like 16's tee, even though it was much later, looked nothing like 13's green. Because it just was wide open. As you know, it's 1,000 feet with only a few trees at the basket. So, I don't know. I think there is a great debate to be had, and if any official policy comes as a result of it, I will be sure to report back as best as I can. And the question was there spotters? Yeah, there were a few volunteers that were still out there, Tim being one of them, but there were volunteers that were out there, and then, honestly, a number of the spectators that were along were ready to, kind of anxiously ready to be there to spot. I think because somewhat of the nuance of it, like it was this weird, exciting thing that was happening. So you could say, hey, I'll run down the fairway. I'm going to hide behind a tree. And if I hear or see something, I will then be able to help spot it. So, yeah, it's certainly unique. I don't think anyone can say about that. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Like, do you vehemently agree or disagree with how it was handled? That's funny. Tim says Jomez had 0 coverage of it. Yeah. And quite frankly, I'm surprised that Ian and Philo, I don't know what they could see. I know what I could see. I know what I was experiencing down there. They didn't call on me necessarily for any insight, and I would have just relayed, hey, I can't see the disc any better than you can. I can tell you more of what's maybe happening on the ground, but I couldn't necessarily see the disc any better than the next guy. So it was it was pretty crazy. And then Tim says that they barely had coverage of 18, and that becomes another point. Is like, at that point, does the media supersede in any way the idea of that cancellation or of that delay for the next question? I don't know. Spock says, next question, do you ever see a sanctioned glow round on DGN on a safer course? I mean, it's just so tough to film. That being the number one problem. Like, I'm not fancy with all the technologies, but I don't really see that becoming a thing. There's some courses that are lit up, where you're not really even playing glow. You're playing night golf, but it's lit. Like me. Heyo. Just kidding. But I don't know if you're gonna necessarily see that as a thing. I think it'd be kind of frustrating. And it probably would be really difficult to commentate, to film, to be part of. Then you do have to worry about potential safety issues. Depends on the type of course. There's so many things that could factor in, and I don't know that people. I don't know how many people would get all fired up for it. Dan says, I think it was handled fine under the circumstances. Like I said, certainly unique. Someone says Ian and Philo seemed to not realize they even played 17 and they were heading to 18. Yeah, I mean, just think about it. Hole 17, one of the most diabolical, event-altering holes on the course. They shot one under. There was 3 pars and a birdie. Like, if you asked most groups at the beginning of the weekend and say, hey, here's your deal. You're going to go through this round. You're going to go through all 3 rounds. There's going to be 3 pars and a birdie on this hole. How do you guys feel about that? I think quite a few groups would be like, yeah, that's cool. So the fact that it happened in the dark, maybe not too crazy. Dust says, yo, I'm always down to guest host, by the way, buddy, if you ever need someone. Guest hosting wasn't my issue tonight. Single hosting was my real issue, Dust. I appreciate it. I was all lined up. I was excited to do everything tonight, and then technology somehow failed me. So, just so you know. Also, Dustin says, I also found out I'm hosting Tournament Central for Worlds and USDGC/Throw Pink. Awesome. I might be part of those, some of those, in some capacity. I don't know. Should I go on strike? I don't know how that works. How do you feel about the group time warning? The group time warning by an official. I'm good with it. Truth be told, there's some of our players, one of which was supposed to be a special guest tonight. I don't know who's got what stopwatch or who's operating what, but there's still times Gannon's not within his 30 seconds. The question is it? One of the questions is that once a round? Or is that 32 times around? Is 3 times acceptable? Is 23 times acceptable? All I know is he's not within 30 seconds. Gannon, if you're watching, you're not within 30 seconds. I think Aaron Gossage sometimes pushes that as well. I don't know about the other 2 on the card. I don't know how the warning went. Again, I wasn't near it in that particular case. But Gossage, by the time he goes through, sometimes a pump fake and disc selection and a couple other pump fakes. I think he too probably pushes your 30-second. Again, you can have that argument on another way and another day as to whether or not that's should be 30 seconds. But as of the rule right now, I think you see both of them often challenging that 30 seconds, if not going over it. So long story short, if or however the warning came down, I personally am all about it. That's just me. But I also am pretty biased because I play really fast and I edit disc golf videos. So I really like to see quick play. Glow coverage seems gimmicky. He needed IT tonight. Yeah, thank you. I think the group got warned twice about slow play. That sounds about right. I think it was told working with you and Brian for Worlds. Yeah, Dust. Excuse me, I don't know why my nose itches. Working with me and Brian for Worlds. I think I'm on the MPO side of Worlds, and Brian's out in the field for the FPO side of Worlds. I think that's an unofficial look ahead. Calvin's phone with the classic alarm clock. Gavin Babcock, isn't particularly fast either. I'd buy that for $1. I counted 13 on coverage for Burr. Macbeth playing in a charity event but taking it easy. Really? That's interesting. I didn't know if such scenario. Jeff was stealthy about his warnings. I was holding the scoreboard and I didn't notice any of them. Talking about Jeff Chiqua, the PDG official. And there is, there's a friendly warning or an unofficial warning probably that can happen that I think happens from player to player often. And then there's maybe an official warning that happens. Sometimes gets then put on a scorecard. And then, of course, sometimes after that can be an official penalty and or assessment of that nature. I'm not sure how any of it went down. I wasn't right there for them. I would like to know more, but I don't. Yeah, I think the PDGA Ace race would be fun to watch. If Carl Childs was calling on them, so play everyone would be heard. Either way, I look forward to it. Figured you'd be. I was fired after the preserve. Ooh, awkward. Awesome to get asked to work on such massive events. Going to do my best. Did Germ play above his rating? I mean, I think you could check the math on that, but that sounds. I'll check it right now because it's pretty easy to do, and I happen to have it up. Sounds like he probably did because he's rated 1021, and he absolutely did because he shot a 1051, a 1028, and a 1025. Now, a 1028 and a 1025, that's literally less than a stroke better than what he was rated. So that's not wildly insane. I mean, if they have him projected at shooting a 10 under and he goes out and shoots a 9, or vice versa, I should say, he projected at shooting a 9 and he shoots a 10, you're not like, oh my god. 1051 certainly was a very solid opening round for him. I mean, that's 23 points above his rating. That's anywhere from 2 to 4 strokes depending on the course. So yeah, certainly a good weekend for Germ. But yeah, 3 rounds above his rating. 1021, he's rated 1021, so he shot a 1051, a 1028, and a 1025. Edging out James Conrad by a stroke. And then last weekend's winner in Cole Redallen. Cole Redallen finished in 14th, along with Aaron Gossage and Bradley Williams. And then right below them, Simon Lizotte. Dust, yep, you're a little late to the party. Yuli also trending upward lately. Yeah, Yuli had a great week. He's talked about it. I don't think anyone would deny that whatsoever. This up and coming Ulibarri guy has potential. He does, but I mean, it comes down to that consistency. I mean, what did he post on Instagram? He didn't cash in the first. He missed the cash 6 or 8 or 10 times this year. I mean, he's clearly had some struggles. Waco, Austin, Music City, Blue Ridge, Champions Cup, Play It Again, OTB, Jonesboro, OTB, Beaver State, all didn't cash. Preserve didn't cash, and then these last few weekends, at the European Open, he finished 32nd. Then he won the Bradley Center Battle, which is a C tier. He won $177, had 95 points. He couldn't beat more than. I'm gonna guess the division was 6. Let me click on it. Oh wow. Oh, okay. It was a 1-round flex start. That's why. Holy shit! It was a 1-round flex start. There were 19 in the division, so the entry fee though must have been like $20, $25, $30 at max. He shot a 49 to win. That's 10-13 golf, so he shoots 11 under to shoot 10-13. Mark Ward is who I'm looking at. Mark, I'm calling out you, buddy. Mark Ward shot a 10. Shot one worse than Yuli. Okay, that's a 1,003 rated round. Mark Ward's rating is 908. So Mark Ward shot 95 points above his rating. Nice work, Mark Ward. So yeah, so Yuli won that. And then Ledgestone, he finished in 15th. And then this last weekend in 4th. So nice work for him. It got to be tough to play super well and do all that work for Jomez every week regarding Yuli's record. Certainly. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, you could say the same with Germ. You could say the same with Sexton, clearly. Like, things have gotten probably more streamlined to where they're more comfortable and things are getting easier for sure. uh, you know, somebody made a comment though on Saturday night about Germ and Jomez getting their stuff edited and then him getting to bed late. And I think, you know, Germ having a good weekend, he's teeing off at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock or whatever time it is. And I'm not suggesting that everyone, you know, is on a stay up late and sleep whenever you want schedule, but he was fortunate that even though maybe the editing got going late, he was also getting some pretty late tea times. So that's very nice. I think it's more demanding when you're up till midnight or 1 or 2, and then you have a 10 or 10:30 tea time. That's not like having a 3 o'clock tea time. Yeah, Mark Ward certainly getting it on. Which year did Yuli do real well at Worlds? 2010 or 13. It was in Indiana, and I was just starting to vlog. Could have been both years. 13. Not as 10. 10. 10 was the year where he was really, really in consideration and in the hunt for a longer period of time, if I recall. And then was he in the finals or near the finals in 14? 2014. He was, if he wasn't in the finals, he was pretty darn close to it. You guys making me just click on stuff. This thing's getting off the rails real quick. But 2014, I'm going to say it would have been, yes, Spock. That was at Lemon Lake. And I'm just thinking about previous videos I did. That's how, funny enough, I could put that together. In 2014, yeah, Yuli finished 4th at Worlds. Macbeth and Wysocki went into one of the greatest playoffs of all time. Nate Doss, right there in 3rd. And then rounding out the card was Yuli in 4th. He was in the final 9. So, all right, a few more questions, and then we can start to wrap things up. Even though I'm really, really surprised and happy and thankful that so many of you guys, even after 2 failed streams, jumped on, somehow still got here, even though I'm giving you nothing fancy except for my phone camera. So hopefully everything is working all right. The difference in wait, let me read that score. The difference in winning score for MPO and FPO is pretty stark on this course, and it isn't a big distance challenge. No, and honestly, they play some different tees, and they play some different pars. So it's not nearly a fair comparison at all. You know, you think of hole 18 as just one example off the top of my head. They play the same tee to the same pin, 650 feet. The women played as a par 5. The men played as a par 4. But then you rewind 2 holes earlier, and hole 16 is 969 feet. It's played as a par 5 for the men and a par 5 for the women. It feels about right for the women, but it feels almost a little soft for the men, maybe. Then another par 5, hole number 8, is what's 5 something, 6 something. Yeah, I think that's still only 585 or something like that. And that's played as a par 5 for both the men and the women. That's a debate worth having. Shortest hole on the tour and on the course, hole 11, plays as a par 3, obviously, for both, but is it 30, 40 feet shorter for the FPO than it is for the MPO? So anyway, those are just a few of the things that jump out. I try not to think too much about, if they happen to be playing essentially the exact same course with the exact same pars, then maybe, but for the most part, not so much. All right, yeah, we're here in my room, in my office. This is honest to God. First of all, I'm not going to go on too long with it, but second of all, this is the most random of smatterings. There is zero thought as to, some stuff randomly got in here. Some stuff needs to go. Most of it needs to go and needs to just get tucked away in other places. However, one that is exciting that's off in a distance. I got a lot of Skyline stuff still. They just did such an amazing job. That was Discraft. Thank you so much. Tons of beautiful Skyline stuff last year. Last year we had a turtle, so this is last year's Skyline. Yeah, it says right there, 2022. And this year I did a penguin. Oh, here's one. This is a glow. This is a glow buzz. Color glow buzz. Look at that. Beautiful. So there's the penguin, and then the year before I did the turtle. Some beautiful buzzes. Anyway, Color Glow Buzz. This is one of the gems. I don't talk about this often. Yeah, this is the after show. Anything can happen. This is one of the gems that I'm truly excited about. This is from the mid-90s, and I got this at Worlds. This is one of the few discs that I genuinely go out and collect, and this is an Ontario Rock. It's the old school PDGA logo. Super old. And most of these were Cobras from like the 90s with this stamp on it. And so people will often, because it says Ontario on the back, people will often be like, "Oh, I've got an Ontario for you," and they'll show me that stamp. I'm like, it's probably a Cobra. 10 out of 10 times it's been a Cobra. Except for this one. I saw this one at Pro Masters Worlds, and sure enough, it was a Rock. So they did make some. Awesome. Love it. So I snagged that up pretty quickly. There's nothing that's going to really like impress you guys, so to speak, because this isn't meant to be impressive. It's a random smattering. If you don't think I live that double G jerky life, you're silly, because I do. What is that? Smash, crack, pepper. Teriyaki. They don't pay me to say that. All right, what do we got here? These are test flight Venoms. Does that sound right? I bought a bunch of these. I was going to sell a bunch. I never did. Now I've got a ton of, not a ton, a handful of test flight Venoms. I think that's what this is. If somebody makes me like a silly offer, like I would entertain it. I don't know, prototype, something or other. What is that, a 12? 12 speed? What is that, a Hades? I can't even keep them all straight. This one's cool. I was just obviously talking about the Skyline with the penguin this year. This was a Raptor that glows in the dark. What? Yeah, Raptors. I've got glow Raptors. I don't think that one's gonna... The lighting's terrible for this. Glow Raptors. I've got a few. There was very few that I could get my hands on. Some Passions. Again, I bring these in because I think about taking pictures and selling them, then I never get around to it. But I really need to get to like thin this herd. This one's not going anywhere. I had her sign it immediately after. I bought a whole bunch of them. Kristen Tatar signed World Champ Grace. What? Cloudbreaker. Okay, everybody like those. Some more buzzes. What else? What other randoms? Oh. First run, Zone OS. Some more buzzes. Some of the cool other cloud breakers. Some of these were just absolutely gorgeous. Let's see what else I've got for randoms. Again, most of these were pictured. I often will take the picture, and then I don't get around to posting them. Some more Passions and cloud breakers. These were unique as well with my Skyline order this year. More with the penguin, but these were Lunas. And you don't see a lot of... I feel like you don't see a ton of like custom stamped Lunas that aren't Macbeth related. Yeah, Macbeth. A couple more buzzes, a couple more zones, so on and so forth. So some pretty stuff there. Another Luna. How many of you guys remember these? Like the original Crystal Fleck zones from like 2015. Like almost like puddle topped. I think that's what the cool kids say, puddle top. I don't know, makeup stuff. A couple of old school. These were old school now. These Discraft bar stamped buzzes, mini buzzes. I feel like these were super limited when they first came out. Well, I don't think they make them anymore. Here's a cool one. I probably have showed you guys this one. Oh, this is terrible after show video, audio for you guys if you haven't cut this out already. But now I'm showing you the Paige and Grady shoe mini from October 25th, 2019. This is, I think, a mini Sheriff because she was sponsored by Dynamic. And I can't find it. It might be, I think it's a mini Sheriff. And then they individualized the names of the guest. If you can't read that, that says Kobe Geis. Kobe, I still have your mini. I have one that has my name on it, but Kobe like left his behind, so that silly goose. So I grabbed it. And then there's a bunch of other frisbees. Let's just grab a couple more, and then we're gonna call it on this fun tour. Woo! I don't remember where I just got this, but it's another Ontario Rock, pretty much mint condition, and not quite mint. This is from the 90s, probably like 94, 95, 96 era. I would throw this in a second. I won't because it's is damn good condition, but I would, like, this is going to join the other 400 of them. But boy, I wish I could go on. Yeah, DX plastic. Yeah, it was the only plastic for many years. This is a unique one. How many of you guys know about these? A VIP X harp? What? Somebody said that there was like literally only a few hundred of these maybe made. I think I got this when I was at the Toonie in 2019 in Finland. Is that where I got it? I'm pretty sure I did. I think these are insanely limited. Or at least were at the time. If there's more that have come out since then, they were imposters or something. I don't know. Or duplicates or not as cool. But yeah, these at the time were the very first, maybe they were just the very first ever to come out. And I don't think they're that common. Here's another random that somebody almost bought. 2015 Ledgestone Crystal Z Buzz. No, Crystal Flex Buzz SS. Just a few more adjectives in there. Crystal Buzz Flex. Crystal Flex, whatever. You know what I mean. Are we in the after show? Yeah, we certainly are. And here's a really unique one. This is a Glow AM Disc Golf Championships, AM Nationals. And if you're kind of old school and you've been around buzzes forever, you've already seen this. They did a limited run of those. I've got a ton of them. And then also, here's a 2015 Ledgestone Glow FLX Buzz, Flex Buzz. All right. There's lots of other random frisbees back there that just, quite frankly, we could go on for hours, and we're not going to tonight. So with that, I think I'm going to call it. Somehow it still was an hour and 22 minutes. 4 rounds coming up for you guys for the Great Lakes Open. Obviously, FPO in the morning, men in the afternoon. I hear there's different pins for a few of the holes, and I feel as if I saw that some of the pins are actually alternating in terms of you'll see a pin in one spot for 2 of the rounds, and that same hole will have a different pin for a couple of the other rounds. So that should be unique and exciting. We've seen some of that changed in the past. Yes, as Dustin said, I think Brody put it on Instagram today as well, that hole 18 looks different. It's now a par 4. I love the change. I hope it plays better for the FPO division specifically, just because it was such a terrible FPO hole. Just because it just couldn't really be birdied. And something needed to change, whether it was the tee or the pin. And it sounds like there's going to be some changes for both divisions. So I am definitely excited to see that as well. I don't like to be critical, so to speak, of events, but when you're commentating and you're on the course for a number of years and you see a particular hole like never get birdied, like hole 10 from the FPO division at Idlewild, like, without being a jerk, I really do want to push them to either find a new tee or a new pin for hole 10 at Idlewild for that reason. And they know I'm not ripping on them or the event or degrading the event at all, but the numbers now have proven. And I know, I'm a course designer, I know there's something that goes into creating a new tee or a pin, and challenges that go along with it. So I'm not being flippant about it, but 3 or 4 or 5 years in with no birdies on that hole tells us that it's not playing how we want it to play for the FPO division. MPO division, it's kind of a bonus birdie, and I'm good with that. The FPO division, 0 birdies in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years there tells us that it's truly not a par 3 in that position for them. So I think that is needs to be looked at. Ray says you got to do more streams like this where you just go through all your old cool plastic. I've got 100 ideas with 100 videos and a million ways to go about it. And it's just a matter of hours in the day. But you're exactly right. There could be an entire series. There could be a documentary. There could be a lot of stuff about a lot of things that could happen with some of the plastic that cycles in and out of this room. And even the reasons why it comes in and out of this room. I have 500 discs in this room, and it's nothing compared to the other 10,000. So it's absolutely crazy. Ledgestone gets the aces. Idlewild gets the eagles. Idlewild needs to bit work on it. It's Miller time. How many 500 par 3s at D-Glo? A lot of those are at least downhill, I feel like. But I haven't looked at the caddy guide. I'll look at that tomorrow. Everyone, thank you. Thank you for coming along for another silly ride on a Tuesday night. Sorry that we didn't have Gannon on. That's 100% my technology fault. But thank you so much for being here. I need to get back more on the disc golf guy drop zones. Maybe my crazy schedule in Bend over the next few weeks will make that happen, or maybe a Worlds or wherever. And we can have topics, we can have show and tell, we can just have jerky trials. There's a lot of different things we could do. We could talk beverages, like Founders. There's some other tasties. I'm gonna call it. I appreciate each and every one of you, as does Johnny V. We missed you, Johnny, kinda. Podcast 467. I'm sorry if this was a complete mess for anyone that was in for a wild ride. But I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thanks. Like, share, subscribe. Next week we'll have double giveaway. I can't find any plastic to give away. Otherwise, I would just do it myself. Okay, that's rude. But we'll find some goodies to give away. And we'll continue to thank you guys and appreciate each and every one of you. I don't know how to end this thing. I'm going to click some buttons. Save highlight? There was no such thing tonight. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. I'll be wearing sunscreen in the booth this weekend. And you guys keep it safe. That's SmashBoxx 467. And I'll see you next week when you step inside the SmashBoxx.